black men are in crisis?
Yes, I agree. Black men are in crisis. Men generally, however, black men most importantly, and I think it's all start from our parents, especially people that have got girls, child, and boy. The way we're all being brought up. We bring up our boys in a situation whereby you make them to toughen up. You don't let them show their emotions. Because I'm not sure if you pick up from one of the videos when somebody was saying, oh, when they are discussing politics, they all come out and discuss it. But if issues is going on, they keep it to themselves. They don't want to show it that, oh, okay, I'm going through this issue or something. So I just believe we parents, we have a lot to do. When we're bringing up our kids, we need to let them show their emotions, because by the time we start teaching them as a young kid that they need to bottle up, they need to be a man, to man up. There are so many things they're going through that they are meant to share. They will just see it as a sign of weakness when they talk about it, so they'll rather keep it inside, which will eventually affect them when they grow older. When there are some issues they need to talk about, they'll just bottle up, and the society as well, the way they expect you to act as a man. So when you're not like showing emotions or you're talking about things, they just see like, why are you being like a woman? Some people even call some word I'm not gonna say here, but I just think our men are in a lot of troubles, and which is being, some of it is from us mothers or parents, let me put it that way.
Anyone agree or disagree with what Aisha just said? Anybody?
I agree totally.
Why do you say that, Jamaican Empress?
Because just like what Aisha said, from a young age, like parents, say for example, if a male, a child should fall, say a boy, then the mom or the dad would probably be like, get up, you're acting like a girl. Why are you being so soft? You get what I mean? So then from that tender age, the child then thinks that it's not okay to express his emotion or cry or something of that sort, because he will be perhaps less masculine, if that makes sense. So yeah, they just grew up with that, really.
Okay, men in the chat, do you agree or disagree with that? You can put it in the chat if you don't want to unmute yourself. Now, we're just going to get into it and talk about mental health in general first, and then we zone in on our men. Right, mental health, according to gov.uk and the World Health Organization, they define it as a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. That's what mental health is. Do you agree that all of us have mental health? I'm not saying the issues, but do you guys agree that all of us have mental health? We have a mental health to maintain and sustain. Do you agree with that, panel? Yeah? Brilliant. Right, so what are some signs of good mental health? This is where you guys are going to put it in the chat. What are some signs of good mental health? Please use your chat for this. All of you, not just the panel. The panel can come in and speak, and the rest of you can please put it in the chat. So what are some signs of good mental health? What are some signs? I'll give you a minute or so to type in, and then I'll carry on. Signs of good mental health. Mario says slow to anger, self-control. Anything else we want to add? Anybody else?
State of mind.
State of mind. Are you saying any particular state of mind or good state of mind?
Good state of mind, and how you perceive yourself, like how you feel within yourself.
Very good, thank you.
Not easily get into anger.
So slow to anger again.
Don't give your joy out easily. Don't let people upset you, and you'll be angry within yourself and anger yourself all day and people around you. So you don't just give your joy out.
Okay.
Free.
Anna said emotional intelligence. That's very important, emotional intelligence. It's also showing confidence when faced with new situations or people. It's staying positive. It's feeling good about yourself. It's setting goals. It's having good self-esteem. It's reflecting. That's very important. It's very important to reflect, because if you're not reflecting, it means that somewhere, somehow, you're not assessing how life has gone and how you can improve it, or what you can carry on into the next phase of your life. So reflection is a very good one. O'Shane says being able to adequately assess situations before commenting. Can you expand on that, please, O'Shane? Shelley-Ann says the ability to manage the negative and positive emotions. Yes. Anna says being able to identify triggers before you break down. Definitely. Some of us have some, I think all of us, not some of us, we have trigger points, and it's identifying them before it actually triggers us to react. So we all have trigger points, but it's identifying them and making sure that we're not being triggered. Now, we've got the signs of good mental health. What signs and symptoms show poor mental health? What signs and symptoms? One second. Good evening, Kevin. Thank you for joining. So, what signs and symptoms show poor mental health? And Chantel, this is where you're going to come in, my dear. What signs and symptoms shows poor mental health?
Okay, so I work with depression and anxiety. So in terms of depression, so if you find yourself being low in mood, so you find that things that you once enjoyed, whether you enjoyed cooking, whether you enjoyed going for walks, you no longer enjoy those things. There's nothing that gives you joy anymore. You find it hard to even get up in the morning, to shower, to brush your teeth, to eat. You're finding that even watching TV, you're not really watching it, it's just on. What else is there? So there is sleeping too much. You might find that you're more tired throughout the day. So that's depression. And in terms of anxiety, so anxiety is having multiple worries, and you find that you're not able to stop controlling worrying. So it might start with one thing like, I've just lost my job, how will I pay the bills? If I don't pay the bills, then how will my children eat? And from that, it's, if I'm not able to provide for my children, they're going to hate me. And then if they hate me, I'm going to die old. And it continues until you realize that you're in a rabbit hole that you find quite hard to get out of. And because you're so preoccupied with these thoughts, so you're having these thoughts, it takes up a majority of your day. And so it then impacts your ability to do other tasks in your day. So instead of, you might have a bill to fill out, and you find that you're not able to fill out that bill because you've got the paper in front of you, you've got the pen, but you can't read what's on there because your mind's thinking about whatever the thoughts that you're having, and so that takes up a lot of your day. And so you might find that your heart is racing, you might find that you're sweating, you feel quite hot. So those are symptoms of anxiety. And in terms of panic, so our body has these it has a flight or fight response. So when you experience stress is not a mental health condition. That's a normal reaction that human beings have. However, when you experience stress, your body goes into fight or flight. And so what that does is your heart will start to race. You might get butterflies, you might start to sweat because your body's preparing to either fight or flight. But when you experience anxiety, your body stays in that constant state of stress. So you find throughout the day, you might be experiencing chest pains, and that continues. And what panic is when all of that anxiety boils over and you find yourself having a panic attack. And so what that might look like is your heart is racing. You feel that you're going to have a heart attack, you're going to die, you can't catch your breath, you're breathing, you're worrying about dying, but these are only short. A panic attack lasts for the maximum of 10 minutes. So they're short, they're quick, but you're worrying about what's happening to your body during those. So those are symptoms of depression, anxiety, and panic.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And some of the things that the panel is going to say, of course, I'll be repeating as well because I've done my own research just in case. Bupa.co.uk, they list some early signs of poor mental health, even though they won't necessarily lead to a mental illness. So for those that's just come on, we were speaking about everyone having mental health. We all have a mental health, not illness, but we all have mental health. We all have to feel emotions. So even though these are signs, they won't always lead to a mental illness, because at times they may not even be often. So you can be feeling anxious, like Chantel said, or worried, which can cause palpitations, the heart racing thing, headaches or a racing mind. You can have constant feeling of depression or unhappiness, loss of interest in things, like she said earlier, that once made you happy, more irritated than usual. You show constant discomfort or anger. You have lack of sleep, or sometimes even too much sleep. So if you're finding yourself sleeping more than or less than 7 to 9 hours, the maximum they say is 8, but let's put it at an average, 7 to 9. If you find yourself sleeping more than 7 to 9 hours per day, something's going on, and it's not normal. You're not that tired if it's regularly sleeping more than 7 to 9 hours. Something's going on. You might even gain weight or lose weight. You might regularly be isolating or withdrawing yourself from your friends and families. You might be having substance abuse. You're constantly feeling like you're not worthy of anything good. You have difficulty in controlling your emotions, which leads to odd and uncharacteristic behavior. Now, the question I'm going to put out there for all of you on this seminar tonight is, do you think this is part of poor mental health, what we've just spoken about? Do you think it's part of poor mental health, or is it just a normal thing that people get anyways? The key is the consistency and the constant and regularity in which it happens. So do you think, put it in the chat please, do you think these factors then affect our mental health, or is it a mental illness? Do you think? Kevin, you've come on. Where are you joining us from, sir? You're on mute. You're on mute. I'll unmute you. Okay, there you are.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Where are you joining us from?
Well, I'm in Croydon.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for coming on. Thank you so much for coming on. So do you think what we've spoken out about are symptoms of poor mental health, or is this just part of everyday life?
Well, I mean, I guess for me, with how things are with the COVID and everything, it has, of course, impacted for a lot of people. Not being able to go out and see their family, not able to go to work. So it's a sort of a social sort of disconnection that's happened. And of course, with people, if they're not working, of course that's going to weigh heavily on their minds, because they're going to be thinking, okay, how are they going to pay the bills? How are they going to find food to eat? Are they going to take care of the family? So I know it's a lot of stuff that's happening with what we're dealing with now. I mean, whereas because I work for the NHS, so literally since lockdown I've been going to work. Nothing's really sort of changed in that sort of way for me, but then it has impacted on me, because obviously not being around the family as often, and then whereas not being able to travel or go anywhere, not being able to go out and see friends, and so ultimately it still will have an effect with everything that we're dealing with at the moment. So mental health is going to be a big issue for a lot of people, because they're not used, they're not doing the things that they're used to doing, and it's definitely going to make life difficult if things don't go back to some sort of normality soon. But I don't know, we'll have to wait and see. We have to pray, I think, more so, that if the government, if they're doing what they're doing, but hopefully, I don't know, if they are planning on doing stuff, do it and stop, dancing around the situation. They need to get ahead of it. But I don't know. We are in trouble if we don't get back to some sort of normality soon, because we'll have a lot of people who are not going to be well.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for that, Kevin. And going to the chat, Kimani, can you just help me out with what's being said in the chat? I think we started from Aisha. Yeah.
Right. So Aisha said that to answer the question, if it's persistent, so what was mentioned before, if there's persistent there, then it's probably poor mental health. Jamaican Empress added by saying that we all encounter stress at some point in our lives, but like Denisha Chantel said, once our activities of daily living, ADLs, are affected and we're not able to cope, then it's definitely an issue. And Aisha also added, it all mentioned, if all mentioned happened often, it's probably poor mental health. So just to reiterate what was said before, the persistence. And A.R. Spade's music says that the UK is designed to mentally, mash you up, because he's coming from the stance of modern day slavery in the UK. So I think, and Shelly Ann has added as well by saying, I think it's a build-up of the facts that have been stated, or based upon each person, the process could be due to poor mental health. I'm sorry if I'm not getting the points across as clearly as possible. Please do feel free to specify in the chat. Okay. And I think those are the responses that we have so far.
Okay, thank you. I think what Shelly had meant is based on how we're brought up, if I'm not mistaken, and how we process things. Oh, thank you so much for the ones that's just come on. We're talking about what are symptoms and signs of poor mental health. Now, the next question is, what actually affects our mental health? Kevin stated earlier, it's what's going on at the moment. The pandemic is affecting people's mental health. Someone else mentioned earlier, it's Aisha mentioned that actually it's the parents, the mothers especially, that actually sometimes add to poor mental health. Anyone else in the chat, please let me know what actually affects our mental health. Some of the things have already been sent, but what actually affects our mental health? That video we watched earlier, some of the men said it was the women, their wives, that affected their mental health. Maybe the wives on here or the girlfriends on here may disagree, but in the video the men said the wives affect their mental. Whoever's on, Marva, you're on, please mute yourself. Okay. Oh, you're going to speak, sorry, go on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Oh, right, okay. When you mention women, as you know, I've got 4 sons and I've got 3 daughter-in-laws. My second daughter-in-law yesterday, and it just dawned me, my second daughter-in-law yesterday called and was complaining about my son. I had to explain to her that she nags, because she does. And I said to her, you're doing his head in, because if she's doing my head in and he lives with her, she must be doing his head in. So I do believe women do have they have a part to play in some of, in men's mental health. Because, okay, I'm going to say we, because I'm female, we nag. Sometimes we put them down, so it makes them feel worthless. Sometimes we just make them feel like they're nobody and nothing. Do you understand? Despite the fact that they're trying their hardest. Sometimes things are going on like Kevin said, there's no jobs. Everyone is losing their income and all sorts of things like that. So as much as some men are trying and guys are trying, I think we as females, we do we're a contributory factor to sometimes of their mental health taking a downward spiral. I think so. And I think also society has a lot to play in terms of our black men, because I'm a mother of 4 black men and 3 black grandsons, male grandsons. So they tell them it starts off from young, it starts off from nursery. They start on them from nursery, make them feel that they're worthless and they're not going to amount to nothing. Then when they get to secondary school, they start to put them out. When they put them out of school, they have no qualifications, and therefore some of them do not get any jobs. And why? Because they feel that there's nothing out there for them. You know what I mean? There's about 4 of them next door with Malachi and what have you. And all they do every day is just sit down and just play that stupid music and what have you. So they find something else to do, but it is doing their head in, that thing that they're doing at the same time. Am I making sense?
Yes. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
That's just my bit.
All right. Thank you. Right. Well, some of what actually does affect our mental health. Not just men, but all of us for the period of now. We're speaking now. I'm including everyone for the moment. Yes, poor housing or homelessness actually affects our mental health. Loneliness or isolation, abuse, neglect or trauma, domestic violence, long-term sickness, poverty or even debt, bullying, discrimination or racism can actually affect our mental health. Death, so bereavement can actually affect our mental health. Long-term stress, unimportant loss of losing a job, substance use, sexuality can affect our mental health. Life experiences, so heartbreaks, women nagging, as you said, Marva. Genetics affect our mental health. A new venture can affect your mental health. So for example, say you were leaving to go university, you might start getting anxious and it becomes constant because you are fearful of the unknown. The pandemics, well, we've only seen one, but they say more's to come, but that can actually affect our mental health. Now let's go to the chat and hear what the chat's saying. Kimani?
Okay, hopefully I'll get a bit better at this. Okay, so Anna added by saying the immediate environment, so I'm assuming COVID and everything that's been happening. Mani said loneliness. Denisha added by saying that she thinks stigma contributes to the maintenance of mental health, as this hinders help seeking. And however, anything can affect mental health, that is stress, job loss, relationship difficulties, as you've mentioned, Big Auntie. Jamaican Empress added and said illness, childhood trauma, abuse, neglect, social disadvantages, and many more.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to add what actually affects our mental health? Now, okay, no one? Ashane, are you still here? So what mental health conditions then can these factors result in? What mental health conditions can these factors actually result in? Shelly-Ann says social media affects our mental health. Anyone agree with that or disagree? You can come in now and speak. Anyone agree or disagree that social media actually affects our mental health? Anyone? Manny?
Yeah, agreed.
Where are you? Manny?
Yeah, agreed.
Oh, Jimbo's saying. Oh, hello, Jim. Why do you agree with that?
No, I think it's perception, isn't it? I think it's what the kind of image or look of I don't look like that person, or actually social media could be kind of comparing sometimes your life to somebody else's, and if that's constantly thrown at you, it could be the way you dress, it could be I don't know, I don't have muscles and actually I'm actually wanting to be like that, but actually I can't get like that because I'm overweight or something, so I think that it does kind of heighten a kind of a bit of a why can't I be like them kind of thing, I think social media is a big player on that.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. So the question I asked before the social media one is what mental health conditions can the factors result in, and different experiences affect us all differently, and we will respond to them very differently also. We're different beings, we're different people, and we will look at life differently. Now, the mental health conditions of these factors affecting all of us are, we can suffer from anxiety. I say us because I'm included in that. We can end up suffering from anxiety, so worrying or being nervous due to some form of stress, whether it be through phobia, GAD, or panic. We can end up having depression. OCD is a form of mental health illness. So obsession and repetitive behaviors, PTSD, eating disorders. So you might end up having bulimia or even anorexia. Personality disorder, behavior and thinking that is different to the culture you live in. Displaying narcissistic personality, antisocial and psychotypal personality disorder, impulsive, moody, difficulty making and maintaining relationships. You can end up having bipolar disorder, So extreme low and high moods, schizophrenia causing altered view of reality, non-suicidal self-harm. So it's a form of complex mental health condition that is not intended to result in suicide. It is not easy to tell the difference between the suicidal behavior and the non-suicidal self-harm. So I think it's when you're calling out for attention, that one. And that's a form of coping strategy. So those are some of the things, the mental health conditions. When we have these factors playing in our life, those things can end up happening to us. Now, Aisha's saying the most common one is depression. Why do you say that, Aisha? You're on mute.
Yeah, I said that because most I work on the male section in the hospital that I work as a mental health nurse, and most of the client that I work with, then most of the time is due to depression. All these things listed above or spoken about, it usually leads to depression. Then when you're depressed and stuff like that, and yeah, because that's what I see most. So that's why I say it's the most common one.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for that. Now, Kimani, do you want to go to the chat? We've spoken about Aisha.
Right. So Mani, in response to believe that social media can also lead to mental distress, he says that on Instagram you can choose the pages that you want to follow. So you could essentially build the feed that could nourish rather than cause anxiety, which is true. But sometimes it's also important to note that people deal with things differently. So even if you choose to go that route, you may still be affected by it. So what may work for one person may not work for another. And from a personal standpoint, not that it was something that was affecting my mental health, but I just felt like it was important for me to just step away from social media because it was quite heavy for me. There was a lot that was happening throughout this year in terms of what was happening in America and then COVID, and I just had to take a step back from my own mental health. Looking back at it now, it did help me. So some people can stay on social media, but others can't. So what works for one may not work for the other.
Okay.
But thanks for Mani.
All right.
And AR Spades has added by saying that everyone has mental health.
Thank you. Right. Yeah. This is a question for you, Kimani, and also everyone else on the seminar. Here's the question: do men actually suffer from mental health conditions? Do men suffer from mental health conditions? Guys, can we hear it in the chat, please? Do men suffer from these things? Because people say it doesn't exist.
Right. Can I go ahead?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hi everyone again. Very good question. I would definitely have to say yes. Men do experience mental distress and suffer, for want of a better word, suffer from mental health conditions. Excuse the comparison, but mental ill health is sort of like COVID. It doesn't discriminate. So people from all walks of life, whether class, age, gender, ethnicity, you name it, have been affected by COVID. And that's the same thing with mental ill health. It doesn't just affect women, it affects children, it affects men as well. In fact, I think it's the National Institute for Mental Health that mentions that some of the common mental health disorders in men include this depression that Aisha mentioned, and PTSD, so post-traumatic stress disorder, and that could be from a number of other things like childhood trauma, etc. So men definitely do experience mental distress, mental ill health. And the whole thing about mental ill health is that you're unable to cope with the daily stresses of life. So if you're unable to cope with poverty, debt, different things that come about, and the social pressures, especially that Black men face, in the UK, I'm speaking from my experience in the UK, Black men are more likely to be socially excluded in education, in healthcare, employment. So there are different things that contribute to depression and stress and all of that. So men definitely do go through mental health conditions, and they endure it silently because of the stigma as well, as Denisha mentioned before. So that's just to answer the question. I think that's why we're here, to facilitate the discussion and to speak about it.
Okay.
So
All right, thank you. Because you've just spoken, I'm gonna give you a little break and I go through the chat.
Thank you.
Zay says, I think males are more likely to be depressed because men tend to keep whatever is bothering them inside. Males suffer in silence. Anna says, yes, but they mask it a lot. Jimbo says, of course men experience mental health. Shelley says the same thing. Manny says, men keep quiet more. Men feel a sort of stigma. And Kevin says, yes, men do suffer from mental health issues, which can be caused from issues they have had from childhood. Right, I'm going to come to that question that I'm going to direct at Jimbo. But before I get there, yesterday I was reading the Jamaica Star. I don't know if you guys saw it, but this young man killed his dad back home in Jamaica. And when I was reading it, I felt sad because I think the sister, if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to lie, I think the sister was saying, daddy wouldn't want him to go to prison. He wouldn't want him to go to prison at all. He would want him to get help. But the comments that were underneath the article, some of it wasn't very good because people were saying he need to go to prison because he killed him father on purpose. And some people are saying, actually, no, this is something that needs to be spoken about in Jamaica because nothing is being done about it. So I think mental health, men do suffer a lot in silence. Now, O'Shane, are you still here, my dear? If you feel free to talk, O'Shane, what do you think, my dear? If you can come in, please, O'Shane, if that's all right. If not, put it in the chat. Okay, O'Shane's probably coming on. But Jimbo, the question is, why do men find it hard to express their emotions? Why do you actually find it hard to express their emotions?
I think some of the main root cause for it, I think is some of it is how we're brought up as first and foremost. It's like, if you're brought up into a household or amongst people where talking about your feelings and the way how you are is to be unmanly. So if I said, I feel a bit low, somebody's going to tell you, say, what, I'm going to pick up yourself, man, and man up. You know what I'm saying? That kind of, please, just man up about it. Don't kind of, be behaving soft like that for, And I think if you grow up around in a society like that, where you're not kind of given the opportunity, so even if you had something really deep down inside to say, you don't feel like you want to say it because you've got probably you've been so indoctrinated in this, you're a man, don't be able, you are a girl, you know what I mean? Kind of, that kind of stigmatism. And the other thing is, I think it's the kind of the machoism, I'm the man, so I'm supposed to be strong. Yeah, I'm supposed to be strong. I'm supposed to be the one that can bear all the problems. You know what I'm saying? My shoulders are broad. These kind of machoisms, which kind of, it hinders men from coming out and talking of their problems, and coming out. For me personally, is that, my touch, he told me. At the same time as well, he encouraged me to talk about process that I would say
your internet's breaking up a bit, Jimbo.
Sorry?
Your internet was breaking up a little bit.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, so it's fun out there to don't kind of mention they feel, listen, spend some time listening and being open. And just done with this kind of stop behaving like a girl or whatever, and We need to stop doing that. We need to start to openly encourage especially our younger men coming up, that they need to be able to express them without batting them down or pushing what they say down their throat, you know? So.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that, Jimbo. And I agree. Because I see it in the classroom quite a lot, whereby if a little boy should want to cry, the girls look at him and say, "You're kind of like you're a little girl." And I had to stop that and say to them, no. It doesn't work like that. If he wants to express his emotion, let him express it. I'm not saying he should cry and bawl like someone died, but if he wants to express that emotion, he needs to express it. And just to add to what Jimmy said, so I often hear men rebut a woman and say, being a man is equally as hard as being a woman. How do you know that? How do you know it's hard to be a woman? The things we have to deal with, but how do you know that? Now, majority men find it extremely hard to express their emotions for many different reasons. The expectations of society and gender roles have made it. Hi, Kelly. So the expectations of society and gender roles have made it difficult for men to talk about the state of their mental health, which can and has been damaging to them. So from a very young age, culturally, some boys are told not to cry or to express, like Jimmy said earlier, how they're feeling. If a boy cries, they're met with "stop being a girl," or "you're weak," "you're a baby." They're met with all of these things. Man up and deal with it. And this has hindered them from connecting their emotions with what they're feeling. Another reason men don't actually express their emotions is the fact that they aren't expected to be sad or fearful. And men, if I'm incorrect, you can say you're wrong. Men aren't expected to be sad and fearful. For they are men, they're meant to have it all together, where nothing bothers or scares them. They're meant to be strong 24 hours a day, 365, 366 a year. And in addition to that, the media portrays men to be heroes who are tough, but sometimes these said men need a hero themselves. The media does it. They portray men to be heroes, and these men actually need heroes themselves. Furthermore, sometimes they're inspired. So some of our men are inspired by other men who they themselves don't express emotions. And if I'm wrong, please tell me, guys. Sometimes you look up to some men who don't even express emotions themselves, and that's the person that, is your hero. Whenever an emotion is shown, it's possibly seen as anger or frustration. Now, men are also expected to be breadwinners. They're expected to be breadwinners who just get things done and do not seek help. And in a study, actually, over 1,000 men done by the Priory Group, they said 40% of men said, "I've learned to deal with it." 36% said, "I don't wish to be a burden to anyone, hence why they don't show their emotions." 29% said, "I'm too embarrassed to talk about it." 20% said, "There's negative stigma about this kind of thing, so I'm not going to talk to anybody about it or express that emotion to anyone." 17% actually said, "I don't want to admit I need support." 16% said, "I don't want to appear weak." 14% said, "I have no one to talk to." And almost 1/4, 22% of respondents said they would not feel comfortable even speaking to a doctor or any other professional. The main reason being that they worry it will waste their doctor's time. Now, is this the case, men? Is that how you're feeling? We need to do something about this mental health and the mental health conditions that's affecting you or men. So are these things the things that you're feeling while you're not expressing your emotions or not? Kimani, can we go to the chat, please?
I was just going to answer the question, but I'll go to the chat first. Fine, no problem. Audrey has added, "My experience in life is that men are not given a forum to speak or express their emotions. Women and other men need to encourage the small talk. Culturally, men feel they are losing their culture if they express their emotions. We should listen to our men." Marlene says that it depends on how you tell a son not to cry. And Jimbo says that thinks men find it difficult to talk to other men as well. And Shelley agrees with Marlene. Kelly adds the Jimbo's comment by saying that she also thinks it's due to pride. Brenda says that my dad is 86 and from the man generation, so from that generation, but she can say that her father shows his emotions. He cries, both happy and sad. He expresses his emotions, which is good. And as a result, she's never seen him stressed as he expresses himself all the time.
That's quite good. That is good. But then, Kimani, you were going to answer the question. Off you go.
Yeah. Okay, so there's this thing called the generational continuation then. I grew up not being given that opportunity to show my emotions. So this level of emotional intelligence that people say they see in me now, it came later on in my life because I grew up in a family where my grandfather, he was a police officer. So he had that very macho thing about him. So you shouldn't cry in the household. My uncles, that's the same thing. My dad is the same thing. And as Jimbo said, men don't communicate with each other. Sometimes we find it hard to talk to each other about our emotions. If it's to talk about football, and I know I'm being a bit stereotypical here, about football or something else, then we're happy to speak about it. But when it comes down to our emotions, we're not. Culturally, I think it has a lot to do with it because it's only recently that within the Black community, we're actually recognizing mental health. Because maybe 5 years ago, if you said mental health, people would be like, what's that? You know, that's just another thing that people have come up with. And there are people who have died, there are people who are suffering now, who just don't know how to deal with it because it's not something that is recognized in our culture. I think in your explanation earlier as well, Bigonji spoke about strength. So men are expected to be strong. I think we need to redefine that word, strength, or, you know, be a man, because there's nothing wrong with showing your emotions as a man. There's nothing wrong with actually being in touch with your emotions as a man, right? Because we have this thing in our culture within the Black community. There's a lot of emphasis on physical strength, and then the emotional strength is non-existent. Okay, where I'm coming from. So this strength, this idea of strength is physical strength. What about your mental strength? What about your strength, you know, your emotional intelligence? How do you connect? And that's something that is challenging because if men, you know, grow up to not be in touch with their emotions, not deal with the many mental health difficulties that they're experiencing, that is passed on to their sons. And it continues down the line. So I feel like we need to redefine that word strength. Oh, be a man. What does it mean to be a man? So yeah, that's my 2 cents on it.
What does it mean to be a man? So let me ask the question then, going back to what Shelley and Marlene said. Marlene, you said it's how you tell your son not to be a girl. What do you mean by that? How? You can come in or you can put it on the chat. It's how you tell yourself. And Shelley said it's about communicating. So do you say stop being a girl, or how do you do it when you say it's how you communicate when you're telling your son not to be a girl? Kelly, you said it's due to pride. Now, with pride, what do you mean it's due to pride? Are you saying that men are proud beings? Let's hear it. Is that why they don't talk? Why they don't express their emotions?
Yes, I believe because as a Caribbean man, I have seen my father cry maybe once, and he's 68. And so in the Caribbean, we've been taught to don't cry, act tough, keep your head up. So I believe we swallow our emotions and we keep inside our emotions. Also, because of pride as well. So because we've been taught a certain way, we don't really, I think we probably scared to release our emotions.
Why?
Yep.
Scared? Why? Why are you scared to? And if any of the men want to jump in and help Kelly here, please do. Why are you men scared to express your emotions?
Yeah, I believe some men they're probably scared of looking soft or looking like a wimp.
So, question. Let me ask you a question then, and this is for all of you, but Kelly, directed to you. So, when women cry, are we soft? Are we wimps?
No.
Okay, because
I'm just telling you.
I'm inferring.
I'm just telling you, it's one way we're taught.
Okay.
From our fathers to act tough. Women are the weaker beings. Act tough.